Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Vacuum Exposition. I, of course, am Carl, the host, and today we will be looking at another very cool little machine that I have recently acquired. Like I said, we are still continuing with a Christmas theme, so today we will be looking at one that I got myself for Christmas this year. So we'll be taking a look at that in a bit. And just so that everybody knows, we will be doing one more Christmas gift for next week's episode on Christmas. I am going to try to get that episode a little bit early, just with the holidays, so that you guys can enjoy it, hopefully, while you're hanging out with family or you get bored or, whatever. But I'll have something ready for you guys. Anyways, let's get on to today's video. I have been super stoked to do this one. Since I made the deal for it and went and retrieved it this weekend. So without further ado, let's get on to today's exposition. All right, everybody. So we are looking at an interesting piece of canister vacuum history right now. For those that don't know what this is and don't recognize it, it does look a little different than its brethren as well as other family members, if you will. But what we are looking at today is a 1939 Filter Queen Model 200. Now, the Model 200 came out in 1939 and went into about 1950. During that entire time that it was for sale, in 1939 all the way to about 1950, the cost of this little machine would have ran you $89. Now, that would have come with your hose, extension wands, all your tools. Later models would have also featured a little caddy that this would have followed you around with. You had a mothamizer, as well, all the kinds of different attachments you could want. And that would have ran you $89. Now, in today's money, $89 is, well, that's a pretty good deal on a vacuum cleaner from Walmart. You'd probably get a good, decent-ish one. Bissell, Shark, thing like that. In 1939, with adjusted inflation, you would have been looking at, today, right around $1,900 to $2,000. So, for anybody to have one of these back in the day, now they did sell an unimaginable amount of these things, but they just sold for a lot of money. So nowadays we don't see too many of these early Filter Queens. They were a pretty interesting machine when they first came out, just because they did come out with a new revolutionized way of dust collection. And I'll demonstrate that real quick here. Now, it looks like a shop vac, kind of works like a shop vac, but it's very different, and I will show you why. As you can see, this is not like a regular shop vac. Now, what we're looking at here is a cone, obviously. So, Filter Queen was very famous. Filter Queen, for those that don't know, they used, instead of a bag, instead of a cyclone, instead of anything else, back in, the 1930s when they first were released, they came out with a filter cone. So that would have been a paper cone that would have gone on this cone right here, as well as other later machines. And that was how you would have collected your dust and whatnot, was through that filter cone. And of course you would have done down at the bottom, everything would have been hunky-dory. So that particular method has been patented by Filter Queen and was used and still used for their canisters today. Now, this filter system, I know that there is a lot of, design borrowing for a lot of machines nowadays with cyclonic technology and different patents being used and whatnot, but back in about 1947, there was actually, with this machine, there was a big lawsuit So the Lewitt Corporation was, a competitor of Filter Queen as well as all the other brands at that time in about the 40s time frame. And they thought that they could use a filter-based collection system just like the Filter Queen. And that was released in the Model 40 as well as the 44, and they made some changes to, I think there was one more model, but either way, so Filter Queen took him to court and won, and decided that, well, they were going to be the only filter cone people. So Lewitt had to go back and change their machines and everything so that they could take bags again. Now, Filter Queens, they were pretty notable with the vacuum world. Now, they were another one that could have been, that was sold door to door. They were pretty famous for that. But you also still saw ads for them, like, well, here's one for it right here. As you can see, they really wanted to promote basically an all-in-one vacuum cleaner that you could literally do everything with. Only unfortunate thing is, with these early canisters, they didn't tend to have the best power when it came to a high pile rug, something like this. They were great on smooth or hard floors. They were great on, small area rugs, but thicker carpets, they just couldn't get down deeper. You needed a beater bar brush roll, which is kind of how they would have sold themselves to the Royal Company. Now, the Filter Queen company was a division off of the Heathmore product line. Heathmore was also the same company that brought Royal vacuums as well. Now, we haven't seen any Royal uprights yet, but don't worry, we will be getting to some of those. But they had come out in the 20s, 30s, and they were a great option for the home. But this would have been your best option for the canisters. Now, design-wise, these were very similar. Filter Queens, I mean, were very similar design-wise all the way up through their product line, even into today with their cone look. Now, the difference here with this particular machine, the reason why it looks so different than a regular Filter Queen is, and this is one thing I learned, was if you look down in here, you can see straight down to the motor armature. Now, the interesting thing about this particular model is, and this is one thing that the gentleman that I got from actually showed me that I didn't really understand, but the motor is actually upside down. So I know that seems odd, but as long as you flip the fan, you can get it to suck or blow whichever way you need to. So the motor is actually upside down, so you can see the back of it up here, where normally you would see, opposite. Normally you would have a different exhaust port, but this is actually how the exhaust has come out. So I'll show you right here. There's these cool little window-like designs that they put in here. I don't know. It looks very cathedral. I don't know. But this is technically the first Filter Queen, so they were very rudimentary. This particular model, being an early one, was not optioned with the little cart that they went around. So normally they would have, and I'll show a picture one with the cart right here. But either way, you don't have the cart, and with the cart, they would have had holes drilled on the bottom here, so you could bolt it on, but unfortunately this one doesn't have that, so you just kind of drug it behind you, or picked it up, whichever you really prefer. Another difference I've been told that these had was on the hose inlet port. The great thing about Filter Queen is they made hoses for years that still work with the older machines. So this one only has 2 prongs for it to click onto, but later machines had 3, all the way up to 6, I've been told. So really, a machine hose end from a brand new or a newer machine could click right onto this, and perfect. In addition to that, we also saw the big Filter Queen logo, and I'll zoom in on this too. I just absolutely love seeing this thing. I know it's not super shiny as much as it used to be, but it is just really cool to see that and the red crown and everything. Just cool. And I'm just gonna quickly like show you guys, hopefully the light can catch it a little bit, but these handles on the top were actually Bakelite. Bakelite, of course, being a very popular material back in the 30s and 40s that was a substitute to plastic. However, they didn't withstand to heat very well, so a lot of radios are made out of Bakelite back in the 30s, 40s, 50s that ended up, if they got too hot from the radio tubes, they would crack. So it is very important when you see Bakelite pieces that when they are still intact, that is not easy to find. So really cool to see that still up here and intact and everything. Now, one other thing that I mentioned earlier with the attachments was a mothamizer. Now, I don't have any of the attachments of the hose for this. I mean, it was $10, and for the first Filter Queen, I really couldn't pass anything like that up. But I will show a picture of a Model 200 with the mothamizer right here. And I just wanted to talk about this real quick because, you know, like, it's an attachment that we don't really talk about a lot because, you know, it's not really a problem that we have as much anymore, or at least one that we really need to deal with anymore due to our clothes material and things changing over the years. But moths used to be a huge problem in closets. They still are at times. But one thing that you would do is you would take that weird Pokeball looking attachment and you would attach it to the end of the vacuum hose. And once you had done that, you'd take this top cap off of the vacuum and you would click your hose. And I'll show this one more time. If you can tell, there's two prongs on there to connect said hose to. So you'd attach that and then you'd put it in your closet, and then you would put these crystals inside that would kill the moths, or at least release a dust or powder that would keep them away from your clothes. It's just something very interesting. You know, I wanted to highlight it a little bit, mostly because the one that came with this model is very odd looking. They came in a lot of different looking, you know, attachments over the years. Some even came with like mason jars and stuff like that, but this one was just too odd, so I had to mention it. So I hope you guys enjoyed that interesting little picture there. But either way, we are going to get on to a run demo of this little machine. Now, like I said, I did not get the hose or anything like that, and my Filter Queens are all in storage. I have about 5 right now, and I am not able to access them. So, but I will do a run demo and just turn it on to show you guys how very quiet this thing really is. I mean, that was the beauty of these things as well, as, you know, they were very quiet little machines, so you weren't going to wake the neighbors. You weren't going to be like a Kirby and sound like a tornado was happening. You know, it was a very nice machine, and which is, of course, why it commanded such a high price at the time. So let's get on to our little run demo here and see how it runs. Okay, so we have our little tiny canister plugged in and ready. Now, like I said, all my other Filter Queens are in storage, so I don't have that hose, but I will put my hand over the inlet, and I'll even take off the top cap with it running just to blow and whatnot. So, of course, one other thing that I also wanted to show real quick, right next to the power button right here. I know it doesn't show really, but and I will show a picture of what it would have looked like right here. But as you can see, there was a decal right here that would have said, only use Filter Queen branded cones, filter cones for use. So definitely wanted to make sure that you were always putting in the cone in order to prevent any damage to the motor. So let's get this thing turned on and see how it sounds. Very quiet. Wind blowing around. as you can see, for a machine that was designed and built in 1939, this would have been a very quiet thing to use in the home, so making it a very popular little machine. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed our little video on the 1939 Filter Queen Model 200, the first, the foremost, the granddad of all of the rest of them. They are very, very cool machines, and they do, of course, still make them using the very similar design as to where they started from. So really cool to see this. Super happy that I was able to save this one, to put it in with my collection and for future displays for those who want to come see it and learn more about them. So if you have any questions, comments, or anything like that, feel free to drop them down below. I love to hear about these things, and if anybody has any additional information, I love to learn it and add it to it. But either way, we will see you guys next week for the last of the Christmas episodes, and we'll catch you then.